Hey everybody, hope you are having a wonderful evening and welcome to Verbal Tap, the podcast that proves that fighting is much easier from outside the cage. This is Raf Esparza, and with me today, my new co-host, John Evans. John, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for the introduction.
Full,
Raf.
What's up?
What the hell are you doing? It's Kevin. I normally co-host. I do the intro.
Oh.
I just went to get a drink, and you're starting the show with... I'm sorry, what was his name?
His name is John Evans.
Oh, hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Raf, can I talk to you for a second?
Okay, John, if you can do us a favor, just take off your headphones for just a second.
Oh, sure.
Just a second,
Okay.
please, if you don't mind.
Kevin,
if we can
don't
have a
you
word.
do this in front of...
Dude, you are embarrassing
You
me.
are embarrassing the
You said it was
integrity of
gonna
this
be one
podcast,
project.
which
He
was
gonna
already
help
in
with
question
one
with you being on
fucking
it.
project, and then he was just going to get it. Now he's your co-host. You're introducing the goddamn show?
Yeah, dude, he's way better than you. I don't know what to say. Hey, John, come back on in. See, this is great. Kevin was just a little confused, but now we've got everything rolling. Kevin, are you okay with it? Yeah, you are. Okay, great. So we have some big news. We went to Metamoris this weekend, John and myself, not Kevin.
I did not get to go to Metamoris.
But-
that might be why John, I apologize. I might be misdirecting some anger,
Oh, no problem.
specifically at you and Raf, just because I'm super jealous. I was not there.
It was a great event, I have to say. It was a lot of fun. The two of us, I mean, really, like, I hadn't spent a lot of time with Raf before this, but man, we were like brothers there and just having a good time.
God, that sounds great. That sounds awesome.
Hate on that, Kevin. Like so much positivity right in your face. You don't even know what to do with it. Even
It is hard to deal with. His voice is so soft and pleasant that I just find myself agreeing with whatever he says.
The best part about it is, even now you're wondering, damn, should I be replaced?
Yeah, I mean, you're making fair arguments. I consider myself a level-headed person. You're not going to win all the time. Can you guys please just tell me everything? I don't want you to skip, not even a detail. Just start from the beginning, and I'm just going to sit here in awe.
Okay, but did you bring your questions like we asked you to do?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I wrote down 2003 questions, and I'll try and sketch out the important ones.
We're going to whittle those down to about 10.
Okay, that's fair.
If we can. But we do have a lot to talk about. The event was ridiculous, and good ridiculous, but complicated as well. We've got a lot to talk about. The whole event, when you get there, you can tell there's a feeling of wanting to put on the biggest spectacle possible. And
Did they greet you with a complimentary white Metamoris gi like they do in my dreams, where there's like a tailor outside the front door ready to take your measurements, find out if you're looking for like a summer gi?
No, Kevin, this is weird.
Okay.
I feel
I'm just...
you have weird dreams to begin with, but this is getting a little awkward.
I wrote down a lot of questions. They're all going to be winners. I just wanted to see if something happened. It's fine. Go on.
No, we were not presented with a gi, but the next best thing of it, they led us around. We were reporting from Press Row. We made some good friends over there, so it was nice. Everybody was very pleasant. I like the BJJ press community. They seem to be a very nice bunch. But we were there, great seating. The stage looked great. Did you get a chance to see that at least?
I did. The stage did look, it looked really cool.
Are we allowed to do full disclosure in saying that you were like on business?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no. That's what even makes this just almost that much worse. I was working the entire time, so I was in a conference room. Like, it's not even worth talking about. But you guys were at this unbelievable looking stage that looks like the perfect place for jiu-jitsu.
And honestly, like, it just, the way it translates to camera, it looks really great. So,
That's so cool.
the
Yeah.
one thing that I think that happened very quickly is you could tell that the ghost of last year's Metamoris was deeply in the air because the audience
What do you
wasn't.
mean by that?
What I mean is the audience wasn't even fully seated. They had maybe at most a tenth of the audience sitting in there, and then all of a sudden they just go, "Okay, start the event, bring them all out."
We're going.
And you know, it was funny. Right as they did that, slowly but surely, people start trickling in. And I don't think they wanted that same problem that, John, maybe you can speak a little bit about, which was last year they started a little late.
It was a couple minutes late, like 120 minutes late or something like that.
Okay.
It was like very, very late. It was really ridiculous. I remember I ordered it live at my house, and I think I put it on the iPad and streamed it to the big screen. And so I had a bunch of people over. We're all sitting there waiting, Cheetos in hand, and we continued to wait and wait. And it was one of the worst run events as far as being on schedule goes that I can ever remember.
Yeah. And I think that was present throughout the rest of the day. Is they knew that they had a set amount of times. For the most part, I'm even looking at the handout that they gave us. They were pretty much on time. Even if they were behind by about 5 to 10 minutes, you could tell they were going at it like, okay, bam, play some percussion. It's going to honor our ancestors, and we're going to keep this thing moving. And it kind of, sounded like the band from Coming to America was consistent playing. It's a great thing. It was just
well described. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But the worst part about that was they played one song. So that one song was in my head the entire day.
Yeah, it really brings you to the motherland.
It does. Well, I have a different motherland. They just get drunk and yell, "Aha!" But okay, so they start the event. Everybody gets trucked out for the pose, and hey, everybody, they're still here. We got them, so don't worry. They get off the stage, and then we're right into the event.
They didn't waste any time getting started. It was clearly they were trying to avoid what happened last year, and I think they put very little time between the matches, expecting that, or hoping at least, that most of them wouldn't go the majority of the time. So that way, they could maybe make it a little bit smoother, have a little bit of time between, but. That wasn't always possible.
No, but the good news for us is we had 6 matches that kind of ranged from really good tight jiu-jitsu to, well, we should discuss this. We'll of course touch upon all of that. But full disclosure here, John is actually someone who instructs jiu-jitsu to me, so I hope that those listening would not hold him accountable for how bad I am. I am not reflective of his teachings, but having him there was a great resource for not just the ability to break down the events as they were happening, but the same kind of enthusiasm that he shares. He does a lot of breakdowns. Do you have a new channel that you're looking to do?
I'm just starting. I just recently opened bjjbreakdown.com.
Okay.
And that hopefully has a website up by the time you look at it. There's something there right now, but it's just a placeholder. So maybe if this is not live, then maybe something will be up. But if that is not up, then youtube.com/bjjbreakdown is already up. So should be some stuff there.
Excellent. And on there, you comment on matches.
I do.
You break down the technical aspects of it from a jiu-jitsu and grappling perspective.
I do. I started it because I was injured and I had free time, and I get depressed when I can't train because I do that a lot. And so I was thinking, like, well, what can I do to fill this free time that would be productive? And just watching tournament matches is a good way to learn a lot about tournament jiu-jitsu. Even if you know a lot about it, it's a good way to see new things and to see like what the top level athletes are doing. But I also realized too that for the first 2 to 3 years of training, I've been training for coming up on 7 years now, that even after like 2 or 3 years, I'd go and watch top level events and have no idea what was going on. It wasn't until much later that I really realized I know everything that's going on, like with the meta game and everything.
Yeah.
So, and it's very boring to watch a jiu-jitsu match, especially in the gi, if you don't know exactly what's going on. It just looks like guys are just holding each other in a static position for a long time. So I figured I could watch videotape and I could also commentate on it and point out all the little nuances. So people that are new to grappling could really see what's going on and enjoy the sport too.
And that's a lot of our listeners and me and Kevin.
Yeah, and let me contribute. One of the things that I'll say is You're 100% right. I really like watching different matches and seeing different black belts and brown belts and purple belts do some things. But it wasn't until I watched Rafael Lovato explain the logic behind his fights that some really simple things he does made a ton of sense, because it's just wildly helpful.
Absolutely.
And it was a great help to have at Metamoris on event on site because...
Yeah, we get it, Raf. On event, on site, in the press pass, hanging out with top-level jiu-jitsu. Yeah, we get it.
Yahoo News was actually sitting behind us.
Oh, great. That's just you're fantastic. Yahoo was behind
Well,
you.
this is a good time to transition to match number the first. Our first match was Victor Estima versus JT Torres.
Yeah, the fight that the little fight that could.
The little fight that could. Now, why is that, Kevin?
Because I genuinely can't even remember who the first two people were that were supposed to be in this fight. It was Bill Cooper and...
No, that was a replacement, wasn't it?
Bill Cooper was the replacement?
He was a
Bill
replacement.
Cooper was in this fight at one point.
I think there's a chain of about 5 to 6 different times this one got replaced. Even to the point now where we joked about this off air, but in the program, JT Torres was an added insert in the program.
Yeah,
like they're just like,
a
ooh, too
loose
late.
photo.
Loose photo. Here he is. Here's.
And JT Torres is nobody's insert. Like he's
amazing.
He's a high level jiu-jitsu competitor.
Right, but from a practical standpoint, I'd love telling people like, "Hey, go get the program." Oh wait, just get the insert. That's where I am. But he deserved way better than that because they did produce a great match. Now, John, what was the thing or things? Because keep in mind, we are talking about 20 minutes of match. Yes. So it's very difficult to like break that down because as I can describe best for you guys who weren't at the event or maybe are trying to recall it, you can hear everything in that auditorium.
Oh yeah, it was silent there.
It's super silent, and you hear just everything. You almost hear them thinking about what move they're doing next. That's how silent it is. But what were a couple of the things that stuck out to you about this match in particular?
Well, okay, so as you explained, this one did go the distance.
Yes,
it did not end in a finish. And this for this event there was a 20-minute time limit.
It was 20-minute matches, and they just didn't have judges.
Oh, it was.
If it went the distance, it was a draw. If it wasn't, there was. I think almost half of them finished. So
okay. So yes, but for whatever reason, in my opinion, at least, I feel like having the judges kind of changed the tone of the whole tournament. At least,
completely agree.
Yeah, at least a little bit. Even if it was subconsciously in the fighters' minds, there's always that. Okay, well, it's going to go to decision at the end, so it's just a different thing at that point. But for me, the whole tale of this match was. Estima constantly, just nonstop attacking footlocks. He was going for his patented straight ankle lock, which is really more of a toe hold. He was going for that. He was switching it up to knee bars. And something that you don't see very often is he was in the knee reap position going for his footlocks because the knee reap was allowed. I don't think heel hooks were allowed in the gi, but you could still be in the knee reap position, which I strongly agree with. At a black belt level, you should be able to reap the knee. It's just a position. It doesn't mean that you're going after the knee. Of course, some people are going to torque the knee a little bit, but clearly that didn't stop JT, and it didn't stop a few of the other fighters tonight that were in that knee reap position. No one got injured.
When they were consistently in that section, I think we both, when we were watching it's so tense because at times you can literally be watching someone in the same exact position, but making very small adjustments.
Absolutely.
And that's what a lot of this match looked like it was happening. Just very small adjustments that were happening. So to, I think, maybe the untrained eye, it would seem like, what's happening here?
Yes.
Like, what's going on?
Exactly. He's just sitting there, like they're not seeing that Victor is wrapping his arm around the leg, trying to go for that straight ankle lock, which is really, he kind of turns it into a toe hold against his body. It's like his own signature move. And then he'll go from that, and he will actually push the foot away and go for a real toe hold and turn that into a knee bar. But it's all very subtle setups to that, to see if he can get JT off base, to see, where JT is going to move so he can set up one transition to the next. But if you don't know that that's going on, it just looks like some guy's just laying on his back, just moving like really, really small movements and not doing much. But JT did a fantastic job of staying on top. It seemed like Victor did not care about giving up the sweep at all during the whole match. He was just going after those legs. I don't know if it was... Some people get a little bit of tunnel vision, and he's so successful with the footlocks. I don't know if he just felt like that was his best move, or maybe he was a little tired from competing at the Worlds just a week prior, but he was just going after that, and it didn't matter if he got swept or anything. JT unable to pass his guard, though, so it wasn't, and there was no points, so it didn't really matter that he was getting swept unless the judges seemed to care, but they didn't. They called it a draw. So
now, in your opinion, did you think that to be an accurate depiction of the match?
I personally scored it as Victor winning the match, just because he was attacking that foot the whole time. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't upset about the decision because JT was on top. He was really dominant as far as like the position game goes. He defended everything that Victor threw at him. So, it was a pretty close fight. I just gave the slight edge to Victor because he was attacking more than JT. JT attacked a couple times.
Was there ever a moment that you thought that it looked dangerous for either of the fighters?
Yes. Actually, there was, let's see, I have it written down somewhere. I took some notes. JT went on a toe hold on Victor, and that looked actually pretty good. Victor was able to get out of it. It looked pretty deep to me, but in the press conference, JT he alluded to the fact that he had like tricky knees. Some people have, it sounds fun.
Okay.
But some people do have that thing that they won't tap to. Some people won't tap to a straight ankle lock. Their feet are just too bendy.
Wow.
Just no matter how good it is. That's a very small percentage of people.
I was about to say, it must be real nice.
Yeah. But, and some people have tricky shoulders. Mm-hmm. So you never know. I mean, that could have been the case with him, and he seemed to mention something like that. Maybe it's very, very hard to submit from the legs, especially the knees. And he seemed to say that it wasn't that close, but from an outsider, not knowing that he's insanely flexible in that unusual way, I thought it looked pretty tight. So
I'm so glad you bring that up, because I think at a certain point I looked at these matches and I had a growing tally on my notes, and my tally was under a category called "Ooh, that hurts," and I kept looking at it and being like, "Nope, that does not look comfortable." I don't necessarily understand how it happened or how to get out of it, but I know that's not great. I think that's a running theme throughout the evening. But yeah, so we had a draw in that match. It was a very good match. I would highly recommend that you go look at it, especially when you consider the fact that JT took it on such short notice. Yes. He took it with a week's notice, even a little bit less than that.
Yeah, he finished the Worlds, and it was days later, and the Worlds ended on Sunday.
That's right. He mentioned that because he was ready to head back.
Yeah, he was already...
It was after Worlds, because they announced Keenan post-Worlds.
Yes. He was already in relax mode, so he was probably eating terrible and just, trying to recover from the brutality of the Worlds and training for months up until then.
What do you guys think the impact of Worlds was 1 week before it?
I think it was terrible, honestly. Like, the fighters were all visibly depleted in their matches compared to some of the performances that they put on at the Worlds. So I thought it was actually quite a detriment to the tournament as a whole. And they discussed that in the press conference, and even Halleck agreed, and he said he'd never do it again. He just thought that, he thought that it wouldn't be such a big issue, but it was.
It was definitely discussed in the presser. And, what do you say to that?
Well, my whole thing with that is like, I think it's really funny. There's this weird thing going on with jiu-jitsu right now where jiu-jitsu is not a popular sport in the grand scheme of things.
No, get out.
I mean, you look at anything.
All these BJJ people just flaunting their Nike scholarships and their Nike merchandise.
Exactly.
Oh, turn it down.
I mean, you think about the Worlds, right?
Yeah.
The Worlds, you don't get paid for the Worlds. You know, like maybe there's some like under the table deals or something, or like maybe they pay your admission fee or something, which is ridiculous. But these are the top athletes we're talking about here. You know, like the fact, and anyone that's ever trained knows that this is one of the hardest sports in the world. It's as hard as wrestling because it incorporates wrestling into there. A lot of the athletes don't train like it's wrestling, which they should, but it can be. The top guys that are training just as hard as wrestlers, which is grueling. And wrestling also does not get as much recognition, but still more recognition than jiu-jitsu.
One at a time, John. We can't save everything at once. I see Twitter hashtag save wrestling, save wrestling. How about save BJJ first?
All right, we'll start with jiu-jitsu.
All right.
But it is verbal tap. It is not verbal pin. I don't know if that's a thing, but
verbal takedown?
Verbal
It's in
takedown.
both, right?
Kevin, register it.
verbalweirdShoes.com. All your wrestling news.
Shut up,
They're
Kevin.
soft.
You know, I like the idea that we're just going to trademark everything. We've got verbal scrap now, verbal takedown.
Verbal scrap. Yeah, we have Dave the Caveman.
Thank you, Caveman.
And our next Metamoris fight, it was a little bit out of order. Our next one was
Kenzie Dern
Versus
taking on Michelle Nicolini.
Yes.
Now, this match was amazing.
Did they say why it was?
No, they just did it.
Okay.
And I mean, the worst part is it's like,
They just swapped fights? Like they just changed the order?
yeah, I guess so. I guess when you run it, you can do what you want, right?
Okay. I'm sorry, which fight was it that was supposed to go first?
No, Estima and Torres went first, so that happened. Second was supposed to be Brendan Schaub and Cyborg, but again, we're getting there, so give us a second. But Michelle Nicolini and Mackenzie Dern put on a really nice display, I thought. Just really cool to watch them do their thing.
For me, this was one of the main draws to the card after having seen all the matches, because it was just an incredible fight. Michelle Nicolini, if you've never heard of her before, you don't know her, she is maybe one of my favorite fighters, women and men. Like, she is unbelievably technical and just so good at jiu-jitsu. And it's great with the women because they don't have the muscle and the weight that the men do, so they have to be very technical. Right. And she is a prime example of that. Just incredible jiu-jitsu. She, just for context, I guess, do people know Drysdale? He's just signed with
the UFC.
Yes. Okay, so she was Drysdale's wife, maybe, or at least dating him.
Kevin, Google it.
And then they split a while ago, a few years ago, I guess, and now she is with Kavaka, who is he's like one of the main guys at Checkmat, and he's actually Bushesh's coach, I believe. He's Bushesh's coach, at least coached Bushesha at some point.
All right, Kevin,
that sounds right. From what no, that actually sounds like well, not the precursor, but the Checkmat is definitely where they said she was at the Metamoris trailer.
Excellent
for her.
But just phenomenal jiu-jitsu. And then Mackenzie Dern, if you don't know who she is the girlfriend of Tenquinho, who just won the Worlds this year in huge upset against my coach Cabrinha. And then in the finals against Rafael Mendez, who's never been defeated at the Worlds before, I think he's won every year that he's done it at black belt. Just super dominant, and Tenquinho was able to win there, and that's Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend, and also her dad is a famous jiu-jitsu practitioner who lives in Arizona now, from Brazil. His name is Wellington Diaz, but everyone knows him by his nickname Megaton, because he's a small guy, but he puts such good pressure on you that they started calling him Megaton, because it's what he feels like.
I'm really glad that in order to really call and bring to attention that he weighs a lot, they went with Megaton. What stopped them from calling him, Gazillaton? Or, anyway, well, let's move past that. When you had that very tense first match, You could see not necessarily a lot of movement necessarily to begin at times, just throughout. Here, we had a very fast-moving beginning.
Michelle Nicolini, like I said, one of my favorite fighters in jiu-jitsu. Just great to watch and has been dominant, even beating people like Kira Gracie, kind of, that was a little bit of like the passing of the torch of that whole era of women's jiu-jitsu. Like, she is the new queen of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. Unless you're talking about like the absolute winners like Gabby Garcia. But so Michelle Nicolini, very exciting, very dominant. And Mackenzie Dern just recently getting her black belt. I mean, you don't expect a new black belt like that to, A, have the confidence to go out there against the best of the best black belts and just really be aggressive and put it to them, or B, be technical enough to make that happen. And she just went out there like a bat out of hell. She attacked her straight off the bat and just relentless.
And the thing that's interesting for me, as I'll freely admit, just new to this world, is when you're watching it, your brain has to work a lot. Like, you can't take a mental vacation for a minute, because if you did, or you looked up and you're like, man, that's a really nice flashlight somebody's got over there, you could miss something. So for watching this, after a very tense first match, your brain is kind of like, okay, I'm concentrating, I'm good. So when you saw that impactful movement to begin, and just how crazy these two are coming out and just trying to put on such a wonderful exhibit, you're just in awe of their ability to do that, and not just at the level that they're competing at, but in one that is such a high pressure stakes for them. This was the first women's match to be put on a Metamoris card, and there's always something underneath all of that in terms of it.
I think it was great for women's first debut in the Metamoris tournament event. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better, really. It was like, I don't know, it was like they had some grudge match in their home or something like that. Like, they just really could care less about any kind of pressure or anything. They just wanted to go at it. And that's what makes exciting fights. And oh man, this one was no exception. In fact, Mackenzie Dern went out there and she got a really tight toe hold on Michelle Nicolini. And I thought it was going to be over in the first 5-6 minutes of the match. Nicolini was able to escape, and then they started trading sweeps back and forth, and then they were sitting in double guard. And I know people really dislike double guard in jiu-jitsu right now. It's super unpopular, especially with the whole Keenan debacle that happened at the Worlds and at the Abu Dhabi Pro. But I mean, I think that's just a lack of knowledge of the game, honestly, because it's a tactic, like, you're going to play the game the best of your ability, and if that means not getting up and passing, then that's just what it is. So, and they were really attacking aggressively off the double guard pull, and Dern was a little bit more apt to get up and try to pass the guard, and she nearly did right in the beginning, and Nicolini was able to recover, but it was close. I thought for sure she'd passed, and I mean, she was really putting it to her, and for Michelle to keep her composure for that first 6 minutes or so, it was very impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I look back fondly at that match as a highlight, if not maybe even the highlight of the series. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, even towards the end, Mackenzie Dern attacked a triangle and then transitioned to the armbar. Michelle Nicolini was able to get out, and at one point, Michelle Nicolini had a toe hold on Mackenzie Dern, and Mackenzie was defending very well by pulling on the sleeve of Michelle Nicolini to prevent the other arm from coming and finishing the toe hold, because you need two hands to finish the toe hold. But despite that, Michelle Nicolini had the foot in such a bad position and then pushed against her butt, against Mackenzie Dern's butt so far, which is where you ideally want a toe hold to be. I thought she might be able to finish it with just the one hand. It was so crazy. And just to see like weird unorthodox stuff like that, like you could just tell that they were just going for it. And it was very exciting to see. This one ended in a draw, and I 100% agree with that. Like, you can't call that match. It's ridiculous.
I do love the girl fighters because they're always technical because people are throwing them around. It's just, it was a great match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's many questions about it.
Yes.
But it is a nice way to transition to our next match. Kevin, do you know what our next match is?
Is it Roberto Cyborg Abreu versus, I know he was supposed to fight someone, but it just isn't coming to me off the top of my head.
Are you sure? I feel like you're running away from this question right now.
I am having a lot of trouble engaging in it. Maybe I'll just circle around my microphone for
I
a
am
half an
actively
hour while you guys talk
trying
about
to
jiu-jitsu.
get you to answer my question, and you are just running away from it.
You haven't even asked me about my day yet. I mean, it's really rude to try and engage someone in a jiu-jitsu conversation.
It's really
during
frustrating.
A show about
just sit here and try and push the action.
I'm just not interested.
And
I'm sorry.
You just, I don't know. You're not
Head
like.
push.
Do you see me right
Head
now?
push.
Engage.
Head push. This is just me metaphorically brushing your head back. I don't know where I'm getting it.
All right. Well, jiu-jitsu fans.
Was this
worldwide?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Let's have a moment for this. It is Roberto Cyborg Abreu versus Brendan Schaub. Okay. Let's start with this. I do comedy a lot. I've never been heckled this bad in my life. Like, I've been to thousands of open mics. I've watched people eat it and just, like, have awful sets. This was like watching someone go through that. This was watching somebody bomb. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ups and the downs of the match. There are many more downs than there are ups. And maybe where the fault lies all around. But let's discuss the main problem here, as our wonderful unplanned skit between Kevin and I illustrated, the fact that a lot of people really blame Schwab for not wanting to get into the match. You had Cyborg essentially butt scooting toward him a lot. Literally just sat down on the floor. At one point, I thought that Cyborg was doing a silent protest, and I just didn't know what it was about. And for me, I was really trying hard to figure out, like, okay, so he's scooting toward him. I get it. You don't want to go into his guard. We did totally understandable. So what is the strategy here? What's the thing? Because at this point, you do actively see Brendan kind of running away. Now, this match to the common viewer would maybe prompt some confusion and be like, this sucks. But even to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu enthusiasts, as they're watching it, they're just mad that he's not actively engaging him to the point where they start heckling him. And it starts with Karate Kid references. That's how I knew we were getting into heckling, when you get one guy who's brave enough in the crowd after 3 minutes of nothing just yelling out, put him in a body bag.
That's how you knew.
That's when you know it's like, all right, this is a real martial arts event now. So thank you, audience member. But he wasn't alone. He had many audience members in there who were booing, and it was like a lucha libre match because you had a clear and defined bad guy and a clear and defined good guy. John, my question to you is this. You are Brendan Schaub.
Okay.
What do you do when you're told that you are fighting Roberto Cyborg Abreu?
So if I'm Brendan Schaub and I'm doing this fight, I'm probably going to play the same exact game that he played. Honestly, like, I don't know how much time he had to prepare for this fight, and not that it really even matters. Like, you can't make your game world class in a couple of months. It's just not going to happen.
Wait, you can't? Oh, shit.
A couple of years you can, but not a couple months. I know, a lot of us just lost hope.
I was really hoping to turn this thing around by August.
Yeah, no.
All right.
You have to wait till summer comes again.
Okay.
But yeah, like, it's just really, really tough. And I think if you want to do the best you can against this person, and by do the best you can, I mean in a competition sense, then you probably play the game that Brendan played. You just avoid, because you're just going to get your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
If you play in his guard, if you if you let him engage hard with the wrestling and take you down, like it's just not where you want to be. So I mean, he did what he should have done as far as like a competition standpoint goes. Like if I had to give him a game plan to try to win, like that would be it. Basically avoid for 19.9 minutes. And
all right, Rock, here's the game plan. You're gonna run away from Apollo Creed the whole time. You're a bum, all right? So that's the game plan?
That's why he had Rocky chase the chicken. So get him ready to run.
Shut up. Stop using technical things. Not only am I way knowledgeable at jiu-jitsu, I know better film knowledge than you too, Raf.
Watch me pull a Rocky reference. Suck it.
But yeah, so like that was his best shot at doing well in the competition as far as the competition goes. But having said that, it earned him a lot of hatred from the fans. So I don't know like if doing his best in this match was really his best option. Because if worst case, if he did engage, he loses. He gets tapped pretty quick. But then it's like, okay, he's an MMA fighter. He's not even a jiu-jitsu specialist. And jiu-jitsu is such a small world. It's not going to really carry over to MMA. But the way this went, this may carry over into MMA. People hated him.
Yeah. I mean, he became kind of a catalyst for everything wrong against jiu-jitsu. And maybe in some ways unfairly. But in another way, that's the game. You're supposed to come here and play in this world, and in this world, that is very negatively received.
Yeah, and it didn't do him any favors either that he was a little bit pompous in the press conference. He was pompous?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I hadn't gotten here yet, but he was pompous in the post presser. Now, why was he pompous?
Just saying, he was saying like. Cyborg is known for being a guard specialist and really good with knee bars, and it particularly spins into his tornado guard, which is where you're in half guard and you basically roll up on your shoulders and tuck your head between your opponent's legs and you load them onto your own leg. It's an old guard that Holeta used to do. They used to call it the Holeta sweep, where you load them on the leg and you toss them over, but you can also go to a knee bar from it. A lot of different options, and it's something that Cyborg's kind of repopularized and named the Tornado Guard. He's very famous for it, and especially because he's such a big guy. Big guys usually don't play bottom, and this guy moves.
Ew. Keep going.
Stop acting like you grow up right now. Grow up, Kevin.
Hold on. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm back.
I'm not convinced, but sure, let's keep that going. At the moment, Kevin brought the show back down to a halt. It's just like,
it's great podcasting when you can completely stunt what was pretty good conversation and analysis. That's why they pay me the big bucks. I'm sorry, you were saying he has a very active guard. He's got a very difficult guard for a huge dude. He's like 240 or 235.
Yes.
Is this why you replaced him?
Yes, this is completely why we replaced him.
All right, that makes sense now.
We're very close to the mute button.
No, but his guard is known to be a great guard, and he's known to go for that knee bar. And Brendan Schaub to sit back and pompously say, I hate to break it to you, but I'm not going to let him take my knee home. Very smugly in the press conference after he knows a whole auditorium.
Does he know?
Full of people booed you.
Like,
I hope he knows.
I'm still not convinced, just by the way he came in.
He might not.
Or maybe not care. Maybe those are two separate ideas.
Or care, yeah.
But
doesn't he know enough not to just get knee barred? Like, doesn't he know enough to at least
I'm not sure.
Top position and not get knee barred?
Right question. Don't know that that's true. I mean,
the thing is the only way he was going to avoid getting knee barred or getting submitted at all is if he avoided the grappling, and that's what he did. You can't learn to anti-grapple unless you're that avoidant where you won't even engage in the first place, like the way he was. That's the only way you can get the anti-grapple going.
All of this is crazy to me. For those who want to see this match, okay, sure, go for it. I would highly implore you to go look at the sped up version that put it to music with Benny Hill music.
Yakety sax.
When you hear it with yakety sax, there is a certain kind of hilarity to it, because the hordes, if they had that in the actual place, I would have been okay with it.
Tolerable, yeah.
Barely. But I'm slipping.
Barely.
I'm looking through the rules here, and I don't see anything against it. So problem solved, Metamoris. You're welcome.
At the 5th minute of a horrible fight, they'll just cue the music.
Oh.
Hit it, DJ.
They could get the clown from the Apollo.
Okay, John, you did get to ask a question in the presser. Do you remember the question that you asked them?
I do remember the question. I nearly wished I hadn't asked it because
You take that back. I'm so happy you asked it. What did you ask?
I thought I was going to incite a riot. It was crazy.
Metamoris 3 almost started, just to give you a feeling of what happened there.
So the first question, I think Halleck asked it, and then Brendan Schaub got all pompous, and then I guess the first question that they asked for the press, that I got to ask that question, and it was I had just asked because I thought it was a good question to pose, whether I agreed with it or not. I said, it's directed towards Cyborg, you're famous for your tornado guard. You weren't able to get him there a lot because of his because he was avoiding the whole ground game, but a couple of times he did get into your half guard. So you weren't able to get your tornado guard to work those few times. Is it because it was no-gi, or is it just because of his avoidant nature? And he continued to get very upset and start yelling. And then Schaub started yelling. And
Well, look, I think it was a great question. It's a fair question. But I think the idea was, and I think this is something that kind of came up a little bit more when people had more time to reflect. Because obviously he was able to, he was able to win. There was there was a great moment when somebody yelled out after 2 decisions right at the end of that match. And they're like, and the result of this fight. And someone goes, it's a draw. And I said, that is pretty funny. I do want to read something that I thought was kind of interesting. Kev, are you part of Cyborg's email list? Because I know I am.
No, I'm not.
Should. I think you would enjoy it. Anyway, I'm going to do a really shitty impression of him reading this, okay?
I love his videos.
Oh, yeah. Videos are great. Okay? Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
First of all, let me say I apologize for frustration that you and I both feel about match with Brendan Schaub. That guy didn't want to fight. He came to do something, but it wasn't fight with me. It was very frustrating. But in the end, he has to live with that performance. Thanks, Metamoris. Blah, 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 blah. Rafael Lovato is releasing his new submission series DVD called Seal the Deal, and has given away 3 awesome free moves. Hey, and also, Brandon, if you're reading this, you should definitely watch these. Smiley face. Emoticon. Okay, I'm out. Cyborg. That's my shitty Cyborg, everybody.
It's not terrible, because he does have kind of a sunny disposition when he talks. Like, he seems a little more joyful than...
I mean, honestly,
see him.
From the very few times that I've really, listened to him, I've just been like, well, that's generally the thing. That's generally the voice I hear in my head when he talks.
Can you put a disclaimer in there for him to not beat me up for your impersonation of him?
Tell you what, here's the thing.
John, you sound way too quick to get beaten up by Cyborg. Just move laterally, you'll be fine.
Kev, you think we've discussed that one enough?
That one, it deserved this much time.
I agree.
But we do have 2 big fights left, if I'm correct.
We have
2 or 3.
We have 3 fights.
3 fights left.
At this time, so anyway, we thought we were getting an intermission. Instead, we got a big surprise announcement.
Yeah.
What's that announcement?
They announced Eddie Bravo is going to be having his rematch finally after all of these years against Royler Gracie. And it's a rematch that is going to take place. It's going to be the grudge match from their first fight, in which Eddie Bravo, in most people's opinions, tragically beat Royler at the ADCC tournament. And I think that was in the early 2000s, maybe.
I think it's 2003.
Okay.
I'm I could be so wrong on this.
That sounds about right. It was somewhere around there.
It's somewhere in that era. Let's
Yeah.
just say that. It was in a Bush era.
It was well before it started moving away from Abu Dhabi.
Bush era.
That's what I remember.
Thanks, Kev.
So
I will say this. I think the most interesting aspect of their rematches, I'm so glad they decided to do it now, because I was really afraid this was going to get settled at like an old person's home and none of us would ever get to see it.
well, I mean, Hoyler is not exactly a spring chicken.
I agree.
I think that alone, I mean, he was named as the most dominant grappler of the 90s, I believe. Like, the most by Greasy Mag. I think it was Greasy Mag, yeah. I mean, that's, it's the teens right now.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago. You think like 93, that was 20 years ago. As an athlete...
Oh my God, we all got so old so quick.
I know. As an athlite, that is...
Thanks for bringing your friend on, Raf. Brighten our day.
I know, we're all feeling our age right now. I just realized my back hurt right as he said that. Well, that was the big announcement. Then after that, then we got an appearance by Hoist Gracie, and I don't know how they pulled that off. I don't know how they got Hoist to make an appearance at a Gracie
Family reunion run event.
a family reunion run event is maybe the best way to describe this.
Yeah, well, probably threw a lot of money at it and, made wishes. And...
I'm pretty sure it involved a very, very heavy Thanksgiving discussion.
Maybe they offered to mow his lawn if he would come on the thing. They did like a family arrangement.
That's a pretty good deal. I'd do that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no problem. Done and done.
I just love that, getting to see Hoist is always great, so why not? We'll take a few minutes to see it. They scheduled 20 minutes for him. I don't even remember if it went 20 minutes. Felt like it went faster than that.
For Hoist?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was...
I thought he just came out. What's up, everybody?
I think I was in the concession stand, so I barely even remember him. Sorry, Hoist. You're the reason I got into grappling, so don't take that offensively.
So, now after intermission, we have a friend of the show, Rafael Lovato Jr., taking on Andre Galvao. Let's start with this. In the press conference, it was noted that the two of them, it started with this. It just said that they thought it was kind of a lackluster, almost lower energy feel to it. Now, we mentioned earlier that Worlds did have kind of an impact on some of the athletes that were in this event. And I think to a certain extent you can make the argument here because these are two very high-level competitors. And you do wonder what it would look like had Worlds not been, a week before and had both of them not been competing just in that way. Doing a training camp that's supposed to be for both of those events seems very difficult because they are two completely different realms. Am I right here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's begin with that. But let's also acknowledge the fact that I thought it was a good match because at least you could see, even though maybe they weren't going amazing 150% as aggressive as both of them normally are, didn't mean that they didn't have an aggressive match.
No, actually, I don't even know what people were watching when they say that it was a lackluster match because I thought this one was, to me, this one is very exciting.
Yeah.
Very good match. Definitely top three of the night for me. And I mean, you talk about Galvao, oh my God, that guy is passing unreal. Just how dynamic he is. That guy is just, I love it. I love his game.
We talk about the passing. Should we acknowledge the joke that Galvao had at the end of the match, which was Galvao very sweetly at the end of the match, which he won by decision, going the full 20 minutes, just goes, as Rafael's talking in the post, he just goes, I want to say a quick plug for Rafael Lovato's pressure passing system. which I used. So thanks. So a credit to both performers, but also maybe to Raphael for not learning how to beat himself. But talk about great system. It was really interesting to watch these two engage because, and I think most people who watch high level jiu-jitsu will agree, there may not necessarily be something that's happening or like a submission that happens, or it may go to a decision, but there may be so many little technical intricacies that you just learn that just in watching them. We got the chance to actually get to say a quick hello to Raphael. And even though he didn't win the match, I just went up to him and I was just like, thank you. Like, that was really cool to learn. Like, even from where I'm at, like, just watching what you guys are doing is, like, insane. It doesn't make any sense, but wow.
You still get the feeling both of them were trying to finish the fight. They were both looking for spots to finish the fight. It just wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, both of them just... It's a great respect to both of them knowing each other's game very well and respecting it to a good extent. I think even as they were gaining their grips during the bulk of the match, it was a very, very... you could just see how they were cautious, but at the same point, one of them knowing that if there's going to be a small mistake, it's done. And at Lovato's level, when he did get passed a couple times, we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 times that really were significant in a 20-minute match, which I still can't fathom in my brain. But highly impressive jiu-jitsu. John, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, really. It was just... They're just both very, very good. Lovato, maybe not. I mean, I think Lovato, other than BJ Penn, he was... So BJ Penn being the first, I think Lovato was the second American to win a black belt jiu-jitsu title at the Worlds.
Did you hear that, Kevin?
Yes.
Do you know that for sure now, Kevin?
That's Worlds. That's not the Brasiliers.
Thank you. Kevin made the mistake of telling Raphael during our interview, congratulations on being the second American to win the Brazilian Nationals.
Yeah, me and Metamoris got it wrong.
It was phrasing on that.
It
was completely off base with your bad journalism.
It was phrasing on mine, too. Except one of us was hosting a huge event, supposedly highlighting the... Anyway, sorry.
Go
yeah,
on,
Rafael Lovato is one of a kind.
Good save. Yeah, so I mean, just they're both really good. Lovato maybe not having the best tournament performances lately, although he did win the Brazilian Nationals. He's very, very good. But then doing really well in the Metamoris last year. So this format seems to favor him. He's maybe not such a point player. So it was really interesting to see a top guy that is going to be even better in this format go up against another top guy that is great in any format.
And Kevin, maybe you can elaborate on this. When he talked to us, didn't he describe the idea that he grew up with a lot of no-timed matches?
And my favorite story was that he was like, we just didn't even have a clock. So we just trained until someone submitted. It didn't matter how long it was. It was like, okay. I can see how that... You just start training. And he's like, we just went.
And he was mentioned, he's like, yeah, and I think after an hour we'd just both be like, okay.
Yeah, occasionally they'd have to just call it because they'd have like dinner plans.
Right.
It's understandable.
That's good. That training makes you good, though. That's grueling, but... Whew, that's a good way to get better. It shows it. Anytime he comes to a format like this, he does exceptionally well. And it was just great because it was really cool because Andre Galvão is not... He's about my size. He's a little bit taller.
Yeah.
But I'm only 5'9". I'm not a big guy, but he's a bit wider than I am. So... to see him fight Lovato, who I think competes at heavyweight.
Yes.
He's definitely the larger person. But Andre Galvão, because of his weight, tends to compete against the heavier people, and that's always interesting to me, because when somebody has that much more leverage on you, because if you think about like a crowbar, the further away you are from the fulcrum point, the little point that you jam in the door or whatever, because when I break into Raf's house with the Cyborg and
you're in my house now. This is the worst plan you've ever constructed, Raf.
That's where he sleeps, Cyborg. Cyborg will start doing that roll into your room. That would be a creepy thing to wake up.
But then you know how to beat him. You just punch him in the face a couple of times and run away. You're good to go.
I love the fact that Kevin now has formed an alliance with you, and I don't like it.
It's you and me, Kevin.
So we're an hour and 26 in. That's what it took us, John, to finally come against it. This is part of his plan to keep us apart.
God damn it.
I'm the Yoko of you two.
Talk to me about the crowd noises during this match, because it seemed like they got really jacked for some flying armbar attempts.
Oh, man. Everyone was just went crazy. As soon as Galvão went for that attempt, it was just out of the blue. And the cool thing about it was both of them being, even though Galvão significantly shorter than Lovato, maybe not smaller by weight, probably a little bit smaller, but not as bad as the height deficit was. They were both going for top position. They both wanted to be on top. So then it turned into a little bit of a judo match, which a lot of stalemating, fighting for grips, and I'm not really positive on how good Lovato's stand-up is, but being that much bigger than someone is a definite advantage in the stand-up if you're at least decent with it. Galvão has worked a ton on his wrestling, and his wrestling with the gi, which really changes the feel of the wrestling. You have collar grips now that help your singles and doubles, and you've got a lot of little tricks you can hold onto the pants. And so he can be very tough to handle on the feet. And it was interesting to see them both going for the takedown. But because of that, they spent a lot of time on the feet. And then out of nowhere, Galvão, you could just tell he realized, like, maybe this isn't working. Yeah. I'm just going to go for this arm. And he set that thing up beautifully, and he jumped on it. And he got his legs all the way around. It looked like, I thought he was going for a flying triangle, but maybe he was going for the armbar. They're pretty similar setups, so even sometimes when you go for the arm, you still throw the leg around the head the same way. But either way, he got up there and held on to it, and the crowd went crazy because they were just having this really tough match on the feet and just not a lot happening there, but they were both trying for very valid stuff. It just, the other person was too good and they're countering it. So you weren't seeing a ton of like explosive action. And then all of a sudden that out of nowhere, and people were just going crazy. It was awesome to see.
It was truly a great match to get to witness live. And I don't think anybody who watched that says that wasn't a good investment of my time.
Absolutely. Like I said, you would have to really not know what's going on to not appreciate that match, and that's totally understandable if you haven't been training jiu-jitsu at all, or even for less than maybe a year or two. That could have still been a boring match to the casual observer, but if you really know what was going on in that match was very exciting. And I mean, Lovato then, of course, defended the triangle really well, got Galvão down, and they went back to the feet, I believe. They're going back and forth, and Galvão, I loved his strategy in this match because he was willing to mix it up. You never once saw Lovato, give up that top position and just try to get to his guard and do something. I mean, maybe towards the end he flopped down because he knew he was in a real bad position or something. But Galvão was using that as a strategy to mix it up, so Lovato wouldn't know where he was coming from. He was trying his judo sweeps, and then all of a sudden he pull guard and try for a sweep really quickly, and he got him a couple of times. Yeah. And just mixing it up like that, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know. He wants to stand up clearly, so you got to stand up and fight him there because you want the top two. But then all of a sudden he's pulling guard and going for a quick sweep, so it's very confusing. And then if he didn't get it, he'd pop right back to the feet. So you couldn't be lazy on the feet too. Normally you either get a guard player or a top player, and you know what they're going for, so you don't have to worry about that. You know, if they pull guard, they're not going to pop back to their feet and try to take you down. But with Galvao, you get that, and that is dangerous.
And one of the things that like is ingrained in my brain was at some point, because of the mixing it up, just there seeming like there was going to be a great Kimura opportunity that was happening late in the match.
Yes.
That when you're watching it, you're just like, well, that's Lovato's go-to move. Like, he has a high percentage. He was telling us the percentage of how many times he's able to pull that off. And for Galvao to really open up that opportunity, it was something kind of spectacular to see. And because of how familiar Lovato was in it, able to defend it very well to the point where I think that was after he survived that, we knew we were going to a decision, at least in my brain. I just kind of was like, I think we're at a standstill for the rest of the match.
Yeah, it really, I didn't feel that Galvao really had Lovato in a lot of danger.
Right.
Like, definitely was threatening stuff constantly, but
Right.
nothing where I felt like, okay, Lovato's going to lose
Yep.
here. Never once did I feel that way, which is amazing because you could really tell he was starting to wear Lovato down, and his passing was stifling.
Yeah.
And his passing is just so good and dynamic. Like I said, like he will start maybe with like an over-under pass to one side, break it off into something that looks like a leg weave pass, and then jump to the other side, and then make it into a leg drag pass. And it's just mixing it up like that and being so confident and fluid going back and forth. Then he's able to pass the guard because it's just so confusing, and it's just a constant onslaught of what's next.
Yeah.
And he was able to utilize that greatly and pass, but even with all of that, still only pass, I believe, 2 or 3 times at the end. And then every time Lovato got his guard back, so he wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to accept that. It was just great to see on both sides.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like Galvao had the edge in that match, but it wasn't any kind of a blowout or anything.
No. But yeah, oh God, I'll watch that again later. Kev, would you like to throw to our next match?
I know it's Estima versus Vieira.
That is correct.
That's it.
Have you seen this match yet, Kev?
I haven't seen this match. I've read about this one, but it's that one and the JT Torres one I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
But I like both these fighters.
You should.
I like both these guys.
Let's start with this. This is another one of the situations where the question of worlds lingers over a little bit. You just feel its presence here. And maybe none more so than the fact that you get a decision, and you had Estima who just... Was it Estima at the end of it who just couldn't get up?
No, that was Rodolfo.
It was Rodolfo, you're right.
Yes.
I just remembered they actually had to conduct the interview with him sitting down because he was exhausted.
Oh, he looked
just worn out.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, what contributed to that, aside from Worlds, which we've kind of established was something that was something that took out of him from the match? What was it that took so much out of him in there?
Well, it's interesting. The Worlds, once again, not only directly, but this time indirectly contributed to it as well. So, of course, both of them tired from the Worlds. But in the Worlds, Braulio was injured when he fought the final against Galvao. He hurt his finger, and I saw a picture of it today, and it was swollen. It was huge.
Wow.
It looked like he was like holding a grapefruit in there. So it was really bad. And so because of that, it changed his whole strategy for this match. He continually went to what we now know is called the Galaxy Guard, which is an unusual foot in the lapel guard, where he holds the lapel with one hand and he puts his foot into that little nook that he's made with the lapel, and that way he can essentially leg press someone off of him no matter how far past their guard they seem. And so that was his main point of attack, because he couldn't even use his other hand. So that indirectly changed the course of it too, because if he hadn't used this technique, who knows what would have happened. It would have just been a different match. And Rodolfo came out there, and Rodolfo had some grueling matches at the Worlds before, and he went out there and he just does what Rodolfo does, which is, he didn't have to even utilize his judo. Of course, Braulio, having a great guard, went right to guard, And so he didn't even have to try to take him down. Just went right there, right where Rodolfo likes it. Rodolfo is one of the greatest passers of our time, even though he's like 22 or something ridiculous like that, which makes me sick. But his passing game is, it's just crushing and constant, and very few people can withstand his passing. Very few people in the world, as you know, he's captured the absolute title at the World Championship, which is the best you can do in a gi tournament. It's just the highest you can go. So for him, he was just playing his same game, which he's amazing at, just passing. And it was 10 minutes of attempting to pass Braulio's guard before he secured his first pass. And he never stopped and rested. It was just constant passing. He'd pass. It seemed like he was past, then Braulio would use that foot in the lapel, the Galaxy guard, put him right back into his guard. Rinse and repeat for 10 minutes straight. It was getting exhausting just to watch it. It was crazy. And at first, I thought for sure Braulio's getting too tired because he's just leg pressing Rodolfo off. But then as it went on, you just realize like how much work goes into passing and how much it took its toll on Rodolfo from the Worlds a week before, too. And with all of that combined, even though he was eventually able to pass, I believe twice, he passed once finally, and because Braulio did not have the Galaxy guard anymore, he was able to get side control. And then when he moved to North-South, Braulio, I think he got the Galaxy guard again, if my memory serves right, and then just put him right back in guard again. That was the first time Rodolfo passed. The second time he passed, and Braulio still had the Galaxy guard, but Braulio, unbeknownst to me at the time, we found out later in the press conference, he knew he had to make something work because he hadn't really done anything offensive. So he baited his arm. He threw his arm out there. Rodolfo jumped all over and went for a 180 arm lock, even though he was in the Galaxy guard. That didn't stop him. And then Braulio escaped that. And part of the reason that he escaped it is because Rodolfo was so ruined at the end of this match. It was very obvious just from looking at him. He was so tired. And then Braulio got on top and started attacking the back. And then at the very end, they both kind of went back to their guards. And it just ended in double guard. There was only about maybe 30 seconds left when Rodolfo attacked that final 180 arm lock. So it went from the 180 arm lock to Braulio coming out to attacking the back to them both in double guard all in 30 seconds. And then Rodolfo couldn't even stand afterwards. Despite, and I agree with this decision, he did get the decision on this one. He was doing all of the passing, even though he's put back in guard. It's hard to make an argument for Braulio winning that fight just because he never threatened. At the very least, Rodolfo passed the guard a couple of times cleanly. But Braulio never once had a very clean attack on Rodolfo, even though he just stifled him like crazy. And obviously, Rodolfo is so tired at the end of the match. If it had gone another 10 minutes, Rodolfo probably would have died of exhaustion or something. He just looked he looked like BJ Penn after that fight that he had where he had to be hospitalized for exhaustion. I don't even remember who it was he fought. Maybe it was St. Pierre.
I thought it was St. Pierre when they had to cart him off and they almost had to throw in the towel essentially.
He looked that bad.
It was about comparable to that.
And even in the press conference after, he looked pretty bad. And then, of course, being like 21 or 22 at the after party, he was just spry and ready to go. Wow. A couple hours and a little bit of alcohol.
I definitely want to go up to him and be like, hey, aren't you supposed to be more tired?
I know. I was shocked. I expected him, but you're not young. You recover quite, and it was a couple hours. He probably had some food. Then he was,
the 90s, 20 years ago. That's all I'm thinking about right now.
Was born.
That's the year. What great factoids you have. But no, so super interesting to just watch them do their thing. I think for us, I think that the best takeaway of it was just seeing them both, like, especially I thought with the last minute or so, they were people who tried to utilize that time to really maximize a great show for the crowd. And I think that's the hardest part about the 20 minutes is if you don't have that patience built in for you, for the average viewer, it is confusing and it might be a little boring, but
20 minutes.
It's a marathon.
Yeah.
And there is a strategy. There is just there's a great competitive level, and to see two guys who know that when you get down to it, go for it. And I applauded them for that. I thought that was kind of really cool to see toward the end of that match.
Yeah, they were definitely both working hard. Hats off to them. They, if you want to be an opponent of Braulio's performance, then you're probably going to say, well, he wasn't offensive enough. He was replacing guard consistently for 20 minutes on the best passer, arguably in the world. That's incredible. His guard is ridiculous with a messed up hand. He was doing one-handed. Yeah. And Adolfo passing one of the best guards in the world for 20 minutes straight.
Yeah.
It's going to be tiring. They're trying their best. Absolutely. I'm sure either of them would have loved to have armbarred the other person or just somehow finished. They would have done it if they could have, but it's just too much. They're just both so good, and after 20 minutes of just going for it, then you're going to be tired. Yeah. And at least still went for it at that you said, the last minute. Braulio knew he hadn't done much offensively, so he threw out the arm. He was that could have been a finish for him, for Rodolfo against him, and that could negatively. I mean, nothing's going to take away from the prestige that is Braulio's career, but people do look at that stuff and will have a lower opinion of your grappling ability, which I think is ridiculous because anyone can lose on any day. And
that's true.
Sometimes you are trying something because you want to make it more exciting, and that people shouldn't be held against people.
So you're saying he's the anti-Schaub?
He is the opposite of Schaub. Yes.
Okay, just just putting words in your mouth. That's all. Kevin, are you ready for the final match?
I'm really ready for the final match. I've seen the final match, and I am excited to hear what it was like live.
Here's what I want to know, Kevin, and we'll get to our view about it being live. But what was your view on the final match?
My view of it, and I'm going to really ask you guys some questions, is it looked like Aoki wasn't in the same grappling league as Kron. And here's the reason I ask. And John, it sounds like you're going to be the most knowledgeable about the possible history here.
Okay.
Has Aoki beaten anyone that I would know of, or have we seen him compete on a grappling level that we know?
Yes, he did compete. God, I'm pretty confident, but I would fact check it on Google first. But I'm pretty sure he did compete in maybe like a nogi grappling tournament before, I want to say maybe 5-ish years ago, and just got the floor. He just got the floor was mopped with him.
Okay,
pretty severely. If that's what I remember.
So I didn't think it looked like the mat had anything to do with the submission. It looked like he already had the guillotine in. What was your guys' viewpoint? Did the mat disrupt it? What was the ruling?
Let's start with this. It was very awkward that they were going that direction to begin with because it's an elevated mat. So it does have a different feel to it. The fighters were explained the rules, and they were told that if they go off the mat, they're disqualified. So somebody, and I don't even know who it was. Was that ever figured out?
In my write-up, I just wrote a bystander.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he worked for the event and saw it happening and tried to save it, or if he was a fan, just some guy he had nachos in his hand and was passing by and I better be the platform now. It was really weird.
I was so astounded that some guy just Captain Save-A-Hoed his way into it. And as I'm watching him get up, as you mentioned, you're thinking, does he work? Is he part of the show? Is he part of the event? Did they get somebody whose job was to, if they look like they're falling off the mat, you get over there. You act like a little prop to them, okay?
That's a valid question. I have no idea. He was really snappy to jump his back in there like he'd been trained for it or something. It's really weird.
It's got to be a weird way to train when you go back. We'll have
He's part drummer, part platform support is the probable official title.
I think so. But, okay, in terms of the submission getting completed, it looked like he was working toward it, and he would have essentially gotten it if it was a little bit more closer to the mat with no question. But the fact that space was kind of a weird kind of thing. We weren't sure. Like from our vantage point, and we had great seats. It was a little confusing to see, just because, especially when you have, drummer stump dude walk in to lend a helping hand. But Aoki took the high road during the press conference and said it was independent of anything. He had it in there, and it was just not his day. Which, honestly, I think there's a small amount of consideration, just that it was that close to the edge. But I mean, to us, it looked a little confusing just at the front, just because of how quickly it happened. And, who's going to say a Gracie's going to get disqualified at this tournament, ? Is a consideration as well. That was something that some people had put out there, but I think that's a little far-fetched. I think he did lock it in independent of it, but it was super weird to see.
It was. I mean, I think people that follow grappling know that Kron Gracie is a phenomenal grappler.
Yeah.
And in this format, just like I was saying, like he beat Otavio Souza in this format, who is the current world champion for his weight class, and then recaptured that again this year. Kron Gracie is very, very good. Definitely an elite level grappler, arguably one of the best in the world. And most people knew that there was a distinct mismatch here coming into this. Being a great grappler for MMA is completely different than being a great pure grappler. There's definitely a mismatch there, and most of the people in the grappling community knew that going in, and that's just because there's just a difference between MMA grappling and pure grappling, and that's not to take anything away from what Aoki's done in MMA. It's just a separate skill set to be able to tie someone up and not get punched in the face repeatedly. It's just different. Like, you don't have to worry about that stuff with straight jiu-jitsu. So it just changes the landscape of the whole thing. And even if you're the most amazing grappler from MMA, but you've never grappled outside of that, really, at least at a high level, and they throw you in with the best pure grappler, you're probably just going to get the pants beat off you. Yeah. And I mean, there's no way that this fight would have ended with a different result, but I just hate the way that they didn't let it in cleanly. It just seems like, have confidence in Kron. Kron was going to beat this guy, and beat him quickly. I think they stood up for like 4 minutes and tried for takedowns on each other, and that didn't work. So Kron just pulled guard, and within a matter of 30 seconds, I think he had Aoki tapping. And that's just, as soon as it goes to the ground, basically, he had him tapped. And just to see it weirdly happen the way it did, where I mean, to the spectators, at least, like, maybe there was a better view of it on the live feed, but being there, I know myself and most of the other people that were around me were very confused. I thought that the ref came in to stop it and reset it in the center, because he was obviously falling off the side and couldn't do anything, let alone try to escape. But then they stopped it, and then they just raised Kron's hand, and it was like, oh, okay. It just to let that... Just if there's that level of confusion and they didn't want to restart it, I don't know. It just kind of taints it for me. So I definitely think Kron would have won, but I'd just like to see it done without controversy, especially if it was their headlining thing. And,
that was the toughest part, is the placement of it as the main event, and then just looking and going, oh, it's over.
Yeah,
that was strange, because at least with other things, you could see it a little more definitively. And the fact, I don't know, I've never seen anything like that in my admittedly brief experience in that realm, but just enough to the point where even if you and I could come to the conclusion in two very different ways with different perspectives, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Sometimes looks like a duck, walks like a duck.
It's good.
It's probably a duck. Is that how that saying goes?
It's like you finished my sentences, Kevin. Thank you. But I think that in itself it was good to get a submission finish on that respect, because there was one brave audience member who yelled out, I think toward the end, or precursor to the final match, and was just, yeah, it'd be nice to see a submission here. And I'd like to propose something. If somebody yells that out, especially at a jiu-jitsu tournament, I think there should be an addendum to actually just say, okay, would you like to demonstrate on one of the 12 fighters on this card a submission finish for us?
That'd be fantastic.
Just have at it. We'd love to see what you're about to do.
He'd choose Schaub, though.
And he might have a chance. I was about, God damn it. Don't give him the option. But
turns out he was an aggressive Gracie Barra black belt or brown belt. Just like,
and honestly, that's the whole thing, is you realize that room is comprised of people like that.
Yeah.
But I tend to believe
that person probably was.
That person who yells it out probably doesn't fully do the sport to the extent that the people who do it.
Probably not.
Just a guess. Yeah. And if he did, then it's like, well, then you're just a shit of a human being. And learn how to choose your times to yell things out. But I think as a whole, Kevin, what are your impressions of Metamoris after hearing all of this information?
Oh, I really love the idea of making a spectacle of high-level jiu-jitsu, and it adds some legitimacy to the sport that I think is very important. I think IBJJF needs competition. I think Metamoris offers a great alternative that is very exciting to watch. So I'm as big a fan of this round as I was last. I like that we got to scrutinize it more, but I still think it's just such an awesome concept.
Awesome. What was the thing you were most jealous of, just based on the things we were talking about tonight?
Oh, it's hard to say, really, based off of sitting in front of Yahoo, to your unbelievable close proximity to some of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu heroes and idols. And did anything else exciting happen while you guys were there?
We did the pros press conference, which was nice, and we got some good information, and we discussed that there. We might have also went to an after party, but that's no big deal.
You might have went where?
Oh, it's nothing, but we might have went to the after party.
You say the after party like they had like a sponsored after party that was clearly
no,
they were for the entire competition, and that was where everybody would be hanging out.
No, I don't know. It was sponsored. Was it?
I think it might have been.
Oh, okay. I just didn't pay attention because there were just so many people there that you would know from MMA. And I'm trying really not to brag about this, Kevin.
Yeah, I can tell.
It was an event.
I'll tell you this much, Kevin, because here's the thing. All of the people that you saw on the card, for the most part, were there. And, these people deserve their own privacy, so we're not going to tell you all of the things that, we witnessed there. I will, however, give you one juicy detail.
I wish I had Raf's one juicy detail music I could cue right now to blast into this segment.
You should try being in the same room with him when he says that.
It's probably a little creepier live than even it was via mic.
Hey, first off,
that was a definitive yes.
Hey,
what's the juicy detail?
Hey, I'm trying to actually preview this and use a full register of my voice, unlike the two of you guys. Clearly, okay. So sorry, range. But yes, there is one, and I'm trying to do this like fucking TMZ does it. That's always I do. Like guys always say, "Hey, there's one juicy detail tonight on TMZ." So fuck off. Anyway, you want to hear what it is?
Yeah, pretty badly.
Okay, I can tell you with some certainty from my eyes to your ears that there was possibly dance battling going on at this after party, and that the person with the best moves may have just done very well at the Worlds. He may have taken a gold or two. I'm not sure. In fact, actually, I think I'm absolute about it.
Interesting.
So,
I think I'm picking up on your clues.
I think
but
that's all I
for
can
those of
say.
you playing along at home, leave a comment on the website. Let us know if you think you can crack Rav's code here.
I love the fact that like we have the discrepancy and deciphering what it is I just said of the same akin that you would do a highlights magazine maze.
Can you do those?
I can.
Oh,
Oh,
you
John.
have to show me the secret.
Oh my God, John. We work so hard on all of your words that we were
I
saying.
used them goodly this
You
time.
did. But you know, I think Kevin, do you have any more questions about Metamoris?
No, except to say thank you guys. This was great. Good dialogue, good reviews, and I'm as jealous and hateful of both of you as I could possibly be.
And you know, we on behalf of both myself and Kevin, we want to thank John for coming with us. This wouldn't be at all a technical discussion of what happened.
Our fans are aware, Ref. They know exactly what it sounds like without.
Yeah, no, they know that our little dog and pony show is usually like, so the thing I took away from Metamoris, I'm only going to do this in a minute. I figure it only deserves a minute review. Yeah, Brendan Schaub's like facepalm on the forehead. Yeah, I think that was it. We did a meme, so I think that'll take care of our coverage of the event. But no, seriously, we were very happy when you agreed to come with us, and I would highly implore all people who do train to go with their instructor to an event like this or just an actual competition. It really opens your world because there's nothing better than being able to process it yourself, but have someone walk you through it as well. And I just want to thank you so much for providing that knowledge and that base while we were over there. It was very helpful.
Oh, it's too kind. It was honestly like it
Oh,
was
don't worry. I'm getting to the mean parts next, so don't worry.
fantastic. No, it was my pleasure. I really had a great time. So thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem, man. And Kevin, we do have breaking news to announce.
Yeah.
Because John did such a good job here, we can now officially announce that he has received another job, and we
Another assignment?
yep.
Let me guess. It's something to do with just you two going to witness a cool event again?
Well, you could say it's not. It's more than a event.
It's a couple.
It's a couple of them.
Yeah.
It's multiple events.
Yeah. It's gonna start at the UFC Fan Expo, July 5th and 6th, and it's gonna culminate at UFC 162.
Of course it is.
I think I've heard of that. That was it. The Ultimate.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think
They-
I've heard.
It's
they-
the Ultimate Fighting
fighting-
Championship. It's very popular, John.
Oh.
I think you and Raf are fully aware of where you're going. And I don't
Hey, I did-
appreciate your condescension.
I didn't explain there's a championship involved. How would anybody know? It's the ultimate.
Oh, people know
I-
Raf. People know when Anderson Silva's fighting. People in Japan know there's a fight coming up.
But some people don't know
world's
that
aware.
July is the biggest card they always have every single year, and they really go balls out to try and give you. You know, I've said too much. When I hear it as bragging now. I didn't hear it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, now that you say it out loud, you can feel the knife.
Hey, but don't you think it's good that I have somebody who knows what they're talking about coming with me? Nah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not completely 100% against the idea. I just,
Yes, and I think just to close out the night, let's do this. We want to thank the good people at Metamoris for allowing us to go to this event, cover it, I think very extensively here, and it was our hope that we're not going to kiss their ass, but we do feel the same way about that jiu-jitsu practice in terms of the purity of competition at that level and the idea that something like that, a tournament like that, not just could exist, but should exist. And I think there's a place for it. And I'm glad that we got to have a discussion of the good things and the bad things, with the hope that as we see more of these things, the discussion of bringing in a champion for Metamoris and other things to come from it in the future. We love being able to have this discussion. I think it hopefully tries to get the sport in a place that's a little more popular for something that we all love. So hopefully that's going to help in that we didn't ruin the event by covering it. That's always my fear.
No, I think we're good, and I'm looking forward to more of the write-up stuff you guys did. The analysis was really good on Twitter, so
Cool.
Nice.
Can't be bad.
Well, Kevin, you want to close the show?
I would love to.
Too bad. I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, I fucking fell right into that. Okay.
Hey, guys. It's been a lot of fun. We're glad you stuck around. We hope you enjoyed this very, very, very nice discussion of jiu-jitsu and Metamoris. For Verbal Tap, this is Raf Esparza.
This is John Evans.
And this is Kevin.
Nope.
Phillips still working. Good night and good fight.
Yeah.
Suck it.
Perfect. Good job, Kevin.